everyone and welcome back to my channel Beth Chats Books. Now today is going to be my January part 1 wrap up. So it is around the 27th of January. I've got one more book to read and I'm going to include it in my part 2, and then anything that I read I'm going to class as February because I just want to get these videos organised, because in the next few weeks with starting my course and doing booktube reading I just need it to be a clean fresh slate on my channel. So I'm going to start wrapping up January part 1 for you now, so let's just get stuck in. So the first book that I finished in January was Rodham by Curtis Settenfield, and this is a adaptation on what Hillary Rodham's life would have been like if she never married Bill Clinton. Now this book is in parts, and the first third of the book is really about them meeting at university and their romance. And then the middle section is kind of the decision that she makes to move away and to break everything off. They kind of mutually decide to break everything off, to be fair to fictional Bill. And then the third section is them trying to go for the presidency. But in this adaptation, they both go for the presidency at the same time. And Trump doesn't run. So it's an alternative universe kind of thing. I really like this because this was a more feminist Hillary, and I think for a lot of people who know a lot more about Hillary Clinton than I do, but a lot of controversy around Hillary is to do with her association with Bill. Bill is known as a bit of a womanizer, which is addressed in this book, let me tell you. But a lot of people, when it came to her presidency campaign, because of things associated with her husband, the American people don't trust the Clintons. And I think that was a lot of the reason why her presidential campaign failed. And I find her a really interesting person, and I find that interesting that there was such a reaction to her presidency campaign. And I know bits of stuff to do with Bill Clinton, and I know more infamous things attached to Bill Clinton, but it was really interesting to have Hillary thrive as a character, and I actually got to know a lot more about her because she was disassociated from Bill throughout this novel. She was independent, and I kept saying to my brother when I was reading this, she's such a more interesting character than Bill. She's so more interesting, so more intelligent, and that really came to the forefront in this novel, and I think it was a really good salute to Hillary, that there's more to her. And the Bill Clinton character in this novel, you really just wanted to punch repeatedly in the face. It was just fun, and I think it was inventive, and that's why I've given it 4 out of 5 stars. I really think I didn't expect to like it. I don't know if you know more about the Clintons, maybe that will affect your reading experience. You don't really need to know loads about them because it is just an adaptation and a bit of an experimentation with their lives. But I just thought it was fun and different, and I really got into it, so that's why I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars. And then the next book I read was The Truants by Kate Weinberg. So this follows Jess, who goes to university in England, and she has this weird infatuation with her female lecturer Lorna, and then there is a male student, he's a mature student called Alec, who she starts to fancy, but her best friend at university starts going out with him. Jess is very self-indulgent. She kind of creates this love triangle of passion and interest between herself and these other 2 characters. And then towards the last third of the book, there was a twist that made the rest of the book feel very draggy, and it played around with some obvious tropes of who do you believe, whose side are you on, and the infamous trope of somebody dies and they have a lot of secrets that come to the forefront, and we realise that our perception of them has changed. It was fun to read, don't get me wrong, and it had some interesting quirks. The girls over at What Page Pod mentioned this in detail. The student drives a hearse, which is very strange, funeral car, and he thinks it's quirky and cool. And that Jess constantly mentions her best friend's mole in this novel, which she does actually when you do read it. It didn't really bother me as much as the ladies at What Page Pod. They found it really frustrating. But it was a very long story to be a little bit too cliched at the end. The first third I was really invested. I thought it was going to be a really interesting university campus style thriller, but the last third, it does go a little bit cliche and a little bit tropey for me. So I gave that just 3 out of 5 stars. Then the next one I read was Love in a Cold Climate by Nancy Mitford. So this follows Fanny, who we met in the first story, but it is a story about her best friend Polly and Polly's weird relationship with her uncle through marriage, the controversy that sets around the estates and with her cousin's family and the people that live closest. So it was very interesting to have a different story. I don't think I'm going to be in a rush to read the final one because I kind of, by the time I got this from the library, felt more obliged to read it than excited to read it. I think Nancy Mitford writes these stories really well. They're very easy to get into. Polly was very different to Fanny, and we learnt about Fanny's next phase in her life through this book. So the first book dealt with her relationship with her cousins, and then her cousins getting married and moving away. This book kind of dealt with Polly coming of age at the same time as Fanny, and towards the middle-ish section of the book, Fanny finds her husband and Polly's looking for one, and then Polly's auntie dies and she pursues her uncle and there's a big controversy. But that's really all I can remember about it. I think back in the day these would have been fun and dramatic and saucy reads for people to have a bit of escapism with. I'm not criticising the writing was fun. I just think I wasn't in the headspace to appreciate this, and so I just also gave this 3 out of 5 stars. There was nothing wrong with it, it just didn't rock my world, to be honest. And then the next one I read was Good Morning, Destroyer of Men's Souls by Nina Renita Aaron. And this is a memoir about Nina's experience being codependent to her addicted boyfriend Kay. So in the book it talks about she has children through her first marriage, and Kay was a bit of a childhood sweetheart who she lost contact with during her move. She, around college time, moves to a different city, comes back, and then marries, and then that marriage has a breakdown and she then reconnects with Kay. So Kay has drug and addiction issues, and there's a lot of hard sections in the book to read about her trying to be a mother to her children while enabling his drug behaviour, his drug addiction behaviour. And she, at some stages, also has a little bit of an issue with abuse, substance abuse. But she goes to these meetings that were set up through AA to help family members who are living with addicts, and she goes into a lot of detail about what codependency is. It's a really interesting look at this memoir because instead of just writing about how bad her life was living with an addict, it kind of shows the conflicting nature of being a codependent and needing Kay and enabling Kay's behaviour, and that it comes out of a complex mix of emotions. She feels resentful, but she loves this person. And, you know, it wasn't a choice to have a difficult life with somebody, that she gets glimmers and layers of this person that she wants him to be. It was really sad, really heartbreaking, but a really important memoir, and I think this is going to be on the BookTube Prize reading. Non-fiction, I'm pretty sure it is. I'll have to double check that, but I know it was on the first list that went round in an email, and I just thought it was a really important memoir. Really enjoyed it. Very hard-hitting subjects, so if that's not something you're going to enjoy, don't pick it up. But looking at the topic of codependency was really interesting, and in this format, and knowing that this is a non-fiction, this is based on experiences she's had to deal with, very powerful, very powerful. So I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Push by Ashley Audrain, which unfortunately, yes, before you guys ask me, is the only book that I managed to read for the past and future readathon. I did terrible, I only read 1 book, but I would like to say I participated. It's just been a manic month, and obviously from here on out I've got to do some sacrificing with my reading, so I read 1 book, I enjoyed it, and I participated, so whatever. So The Push is fantastic. It is the best book that I've read so far this year. it was so creepy and unnerving, and it really got into my psyche, and I just felt so weird about it. And because I had this intense reaction, I was just like, this is amazing. So obviously, before you guys say anything, it's a 5 out of 5 star read. This follows Blythe and her husband Fox and their daughter Violet, and Blythe and Fox have a lovely relationship, and Blythe has had a lot of issues that we touch upon in the book, of her relationship with her mother and her mother's relationship with her mother, so it's kind of intergenerational. And then Fox wants a child, and she thinks this will be a chance to redeem herself, and Violet comes along, and Blythe is convinced that something is not right with Violet. She's not a normal child. In fact, Blythe feels a coldness from Violet, but Violet's very clingy to her father, and everyone thinks she's overreacting. But as Violet gets older, she starts to exhibit behaviours that are concerning. And I won't ruin any more because it's just so good. It plays around with whether she's a reliable narrator of her own life. People don't see certain things that she sees. Is she delusional? And we go into a little bit more about that throughout the novel. I love unreliable narrators, and I love the way that the whole rest of the people in the novel kind of gaslight Blythe about Violet, and how as a reader you're like, oh my god, with certain things that you're reading. It was just the most exciting book experience I've had in a long time, which sounds very sad. I just couldn't put it down. I was just so into those emotions, and you kind of want to scream at the book and at the people in the book and the situation. It's just crazy. Good, so good. So I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend, if there is a new release that you want to read this year, please make sure it's this one, because it is so worth it. And then the last one I want to mention is Dangerous Women by Hope Adams. So this is set in the 1810s and follows a bunch of female English convicts who are travelling on the Raja, which is a ship to take them to Tasmania. So that's part of their prison sentence, this kind of redemption, second life situation. And then one of the ladies on the ship is murdered. All these convicts are all in prison for very minor crimes, like stealing. So everybody's surprised when somebody is murdered, and there is a little bit of a sewing circle going on. So a lady is employed on the ship, she's from a wealthy background, to try and help the ladies and get them ready for the new life. So she sets up like a sewing circle of people that can sew, and they're making this big quilt that they're going to give to royalty when they get off the ship. So they suspect it's someone in that circle. This is a really juicy kind of mystery, but it's got historical fiction. It keeps kind of evading any generic descriptors of what genre it belongs to, which I think is fantastic. It was really enjoyable. I didn't think I was going to enjoy this because I got this from NetGalley. I just want to point out I also got The Push from NetGalley as well. I didn't know when I got approved from this on NetGalley whether I would really enjoy this historical fiction, because I haven't been reading as much historical fiction recently, but this is historical fiction done really well. Like I said, because it has that mystery element and we get to spend time with the characters in a way that doesn't feel rushed. It has a feel-good factor to it. So I gave it between 3.5 and 4. I don't know where I sit with it because I can't remember as many details about this novel as I thought I would, but I do think it's historical fiction done really well. And if you enjoy historical fiction and that kind of closed setting when there's a murder as well and trying to figure out who it is and you teasing that out, then I think you'll really enjoy this, and I think a lot of people will give this 4 stars and above. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that. So that's all of the books for the first half of my January wrap up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new video. Bye now.